Greetings. I am a representative of the anti-sin movement. These videos are not edited. They are AI assisted and read from script. Today's lesson is Part 2, Orthodoxy, Correct Belief, and Orthopraxy, Correct Behavior. Building on the idea that orthopraxy is central to the anti-sin movement, we can explore further how this emphasis on correct action and behavior shapes the movement's worldview and the daily lives of its adherents and practitioners. Active engagement with the world. Anti-sinners, or anti-sinites, if you will. Anti-sinites believe that our mission requires us to engage with the world proactively, not retreat from it. The emphasis on correct conduct and behavior means that every interaction, decision, and behavior must align with the mission of living sin-free. This approach encourages believers to participate fully in society, bringing God's commandments into every sphere of our life's work, relationships, and community involvement. Unlike some religious traditions that might emphasize withdrawal from a sinful world or prioritize contemplation and righteous reflection, anti-sinners stress that interaction in the world is very important. The mission to recapture people from sin demands outward-facing behavior. To recapture people from sin demands outward-facing behavior, where personal purity is reflected in a way that influences others. This makes the anti-sin approach inherently practical and mission-driven to glorify God and eliminate sin. We're in the process of rejecting sinful systems. The anti-sin emphasis on orthopraxy also means a rejection of social, political, and economic systems that are built on or perpetrate and perpetuate sin. For instance, if a system promotes injustice, greed, or exploitative traits as actual manifestations of sin, an anti-sinite is compelled to oppose it through our actions. This can manifest in personal choices such as ethical refusal in consumption, purchase, or use of the product or services, or advocating for fair business practices, or joining broader activism movements aimed at reforming sinful practices in business, politics, or from any arena where sinful behavior is promoted. In this sense, the anti-sin movement focus on correct conduct and behavior does not stop at personal morality, but extends to how one interacts with the systems and institutions of society. An anti-sinner is not only responsible for our own sin-free life, but also for the working towards a world where sin no longer dominates our collective human behavior. This we must do for the new future generations, so our future children and grandchildren may enter a world having as little sinful influence as humanly possible. This is left up to each one of us to accept and practice the sin-free behavioral guidance of God's divine laws, which is the behavioral science of sin-free living. Continuous self-reflection. The commitment to orthopraxy requires a continual process of self-examination and self-correction. Since the movement places such high value on living sin-free, adherents must constantly evaluate our actions, thoughts, and desires to ensure we align with God's commandments. This reflective practice is essential because sin, according to anti-sin belief, is always lurking and attempting to corrupt our minds and behavior. This aspect of the movement echoes the ongoing baptismal practice, where cleansing is seen not as a one-time event, but as an ongoing necessity. Similarly, anti-sinners are always engaged in a cycle of recognizing, repenting, atoning for the removal of sinful behaviors, keeping ourselves in a state of high moral vigilance. We have a personal responsibility in placing the focus on correct action. The anti-sin movement puts a great deal of personal responsibility on each individual. There is no reliance on external intermediaries. There is no reliance on external intermediaries, such as religious authorities or rituals, to ensure salvation. Instead, each person is responsible for knowing God's commandments, obeying them, and ensuring that our own behavior reflects a sin-free life. This personal responsibility mirrors the idea that sin is not only an external force, but an internal struggle. By holding individuals accountable for our own conduct and behavior, the movement empowers its followers to take control of our own sin-free destiny. The law becomes the tool by which an individual navigates life, and strict adherence to these laws is viewed as the only way to truly resist sin and please God. Unity through common righteous conduct and behavior. Another key aspect of orthopraxy within the anti-sin framework is its potential to create unity among people of different faiths. Since the movement emphasizes correct behavior over a specific belief systems, people from various religious backgrounds can participate in the anti-sin mission as long as we commit to living sin-free according to God's laws. This approach creates a sense of shared purpose across religious lines. Muslims, Christians, Jews, and others who have slightly different beliefs about theology can find common ground in our joint commitment to living righteous, sin-free lives. This fosters a kind of interfaith unity, not through doctrinal agreement, but through our practice of shared moral behavior. In a world divided by religious differences, the anti-sin focus on action offers a path to cooperation and mutual understanding. Anti-sinners as sinless warriors. The emphasis on orthopraxy. The emphasis on orthopraxy frames anti-Sinites as sinless warriors, actively fighting a battle against sin. This warfare is not violent or coercive, but is fought through moral integrity, obedience, and the disciplined rejection of sinful desires and behavior. The battlefield is the mind of every individual and the collective mindset of society. Our weapons are righteousness, purity, and practicing the commandments of God. In this formation, correct action becomes the daily battle plan. Every moment, every decision presents a choice between sin and righteousness. And anti-Sinites are trained to choose the latter of righteousness. This war against sin is lifelong and relentless, demanding not just belief in God, but active participation in the anti-sin movement to uphold God's laws. Transformation of the world through correct actions. Ultimately, the anti-sin focus on orthopraxy is about more than just individual salvation. It's about transforming the world by living sin-free lives and encouraging others to do the same. Anti-Sinites believe we can help to cleanse the world of sin. This mission is not passive. It involves changing society by influencing others, reforming institutions, and demonstrating the power of God's commandments in action. In society, in the community, in our families, and most importantly, in ourselves. The goal is to create a world where sin no longer holds sway, where people live in harmony with God's law, and where righteousness becomes the norm. This vision of transformation rooted in orthopraxy suggests that the anti-sin movement sees itself as a force for global renewal, where individuals, communities, and entire societies are recaptured from the grip of sin and brought into alignment with divine will. In conclusion, the anti-sin movement's focus on orthopraxy, correct action, redefines how its adherents approach our sin-free journey. Unlike orthodoxy, religious systems that prioritize belief, anti-Sinites hold that real faith is demonstrated through consistent, sin-free living according to God's commandments. This emphasis on conduct and behavior rather than just faith sets the movement apart by making moral and ethical behavior the central test of one's devotion to God. For anti-sin, it's not enough to believe in God's laws or to accept religious doctrine. One must live them out in daily life. Through this commitment to orthopraxy, anti-sinners seek not only to maintain our own purity, but to inspire others to do the same, driving a mission of transformation that touches both the individual's mindset and the broader worldview of adopting the anti-sin, orthopraxy, mental, and behavioral movement in support of living sin-free. Peace. Please tune into part 3 of Orthodoxy, Correct Faith, and Orthopraxy, Correct Behavior.